Hello and welcome to my channel. If you're a returning viewer, thank you for returning, and if you're a first-time viewer, I hope you stick around. So today we're going to be looking at Cold People by Tom Robb. This is a science fiction book, and I'm just going to give you, first of all, a brief synopsis of the plot. So basically what happens is an alien armada arrives surrounding the Earth and makes the demand that humanity relocate to the Arctic. And humanity is given 30 days in which to do so. So this prompts a huge exodus to the Antarctic. And the first part of the book deals with this. It follows the main characters and how they deal with this situation, how they make their way to Antarctica. And it touches on, various problems like, who would be considered suitable for survival, who wouldn't be, etc., etc. So there's this mad scramble to Antarctica. The book then shifts to 20 years later when humanity has established itself in Antarctica, and there's a society has been built up, and the people who made it there have been surviving fairly well. And then the next step in the book takes place when we introduce the idea that various geneticists have been working on a kind of super species of humans who have been crossed with various types of animal DNA to produce a kind of super species which will be capable of thriving on the ice. And there are two reasons basically for this. The first one is to allow humanity to survive in some form or another. And the second reason, perhaps less noble, is so that the original humans, will have a kind of servant/slave class who will be capable of doing the impossible jobs or the very difficult jobs or the really dirty jobs that they don't want to do. So that's the basic synopsis. So I think it's a fairly original story. It's certainly original, and it's executed. I think it's executed very well. The pace is a very, very fast-paced book. Okay. Now, when I say fast-paced, I don't mean it's superficial. It's a fast-paced book. The characterization is very good. The main characters are a young American woman who, at the start of the book, is 18 years old. She's on holiday in Spain with her family, her mother, her father, and her younger sister. And she meets a young Spanish man who's a tour guide. He has his own boat. So those are the kind of like the two main characters. And then, we meet various other characters along the way, obviously. We follow that, but those are the two people that the story kind of revolves around. And I found them okay. They were quite likable. To be honest, I didn't find them particularly interesting, but they were decent characters. And there are other characters who were introduced later on. There's a character called, I forget his name now. There's an Israeli soldier I forgot his name, who's pivotal to the story as well. And there's a geneticist, a Chinese geneticist. And this couple later on in the story have a daughter who is kind of one of these new hybrid people, one of these cold people. So the characterization is pretty good. The story moves along at a pretty fast pace. It's interestingly written, it's well written, and it's dealt with in a credible way. Okay. So all in all, I would say it's a good story and it's a good read, and it does bring up some interesting points. I mean, the first one I think is that, how would we react and how would we be treated if humanity, were to be confronted with a species vastly superior to us in technology? And obviously, in the case of cold people, humanity does not fare well. And this would really, I think this resonates because this is how our own history has shown things go when a more technologically superior people encounter less technologically advanced people. It never goes well for the less technologically advanced. And in this book, we are the less technologically advanced. And, things generally don't go well. There's also the idea of, in a situation like this, who would deserve to live, who would deserve to be saved. If humanity needed to go forward, what kind of people would we need, and what kind of people would we not need? So it's interesting to look at the thought process that goes on behind this, of who is considered to be worth saving and who isn't, and why. And there's also the idea that, in some cases people have to leave behind people that they love, and there's the idea of, okay, is it worth it to do that? Is it worth it to go on living, when you have to leave behind people that you love? I mean, this is just something that made me think reading the book. Personally, I wouldn't abandon people I love, but that's just me. Weak points of the story, I would say that there were a couple. Okay, first of all, the alien armada in the beginning shows up and makes their demand, and they make their demand via every televisions throughout the world, and in every language, so everybody gets the message. There's no attempt by humanity to kind of push back on this at all. There's no military resistance, no attempt at military resistance. Now, it's obvious from the sophistication of the aliens, the further you go into the book, that resistance wouldn't be possible. But in the book, resistance never seems to be presented as even an option or something that people are willing to try. So I thought that maybe there was humanity capitulated maybe a bit too easily. Second weak point, I thought, was the actual cold people themselves. As I've said, that they're a specially genetically engineered species, rather like the replicants in Blade Runner, I thought. When you read the book, you'll realise that these creatures, this new species, is vastly superior to humanity. And you've got to think, well, would people be so stupid as to create an intelligent race of creatures that are vastly superior to them, that could, that they couldn't possibly compete with in this new environment, Antarctica? I don't know why I did that. I'm not in Antarctica. I'm in my home. Okay, so I don't want to mislead anyone. So those are two kind of points that I thought were a bit, could have done with a bit more exploration. The alien armada themselves. So I think this is a good point. The aliens at no point, apart from their initial demand, the aliens at no point engage with people. That's it. They want people in Antarctica. What happens to the people who don't make it to Antarctica? You'll have to read the book to find out. But the aliens never engage after that. And I think that was quite realistic, because when you think about it, let's make an analogy. When humans go into, say, the rainforest, they start demolishing everything in sight, cutting down trees, bulldozing everything. Humans don't try to communicate with the species that are, all the species that are living in the part of the forest that they're destroying. And I think this is quite a good analogy. The aliens are so far ahead of us, we're like insects to them, or less than insects. They don't have to engage, they don't have to explain, they don't have to take us even remotely seriously. So all in all, I thought it was a good read. I really enjoyed it. One last thing. My major criticism for me would be, I think the story kind of builds up, but I wasn't really kind of satisfied with how the book ended. I mean, I'm not saying it had to end like a Michael Bay movie with, explosions and big battles and stuff like that, but I do think the story for me petered out a bit, and there could have been a bit more of I think it could have ended in a better way. Okay, I'm not going to say how, because I didn't write the book, but I was a bit disappointed with the ending. So all in all, I definitely recommend this book. It's a nice science fiction story. It is very, very original. It's well written. It's got decent characterization, and it really goes along at a fair pace. I read it on the beach, so it's a nice read. It's a nice read. It's a nice casual read. So, if you have any questions, comments, or anything like that, please let me know down below, and see you next time. Goodbye.